Hello guys, welcome to another virtual biology lesson, and today we're going to talk about another group of animals, which are mammals. Mammals are vertebrates, just like birds, but they feed their offspring with milk, which is characteristic only for them. While watching this video, please pay attention to information that is marked with the symbol of pause because that means there is something really important. So let's begin. The general information about mammals. First of all of them are warm-blooded, which means that they have a stable body temperature regardless of what's happening outside. Some of them are warmer than the others, some of them are colder. For instance, the typical temperature of a human body is 36.6 degrees Celsius up to 37. We list if it comes to cats, then it's up to 38 degrees. Most of mammals live on land, but some of them adapted to living in water, which means, for instance, dolphins, they are mammals. They breathe with oxygen. They don't have gills, which means that they aren't fish. But they just spend their entire lives in water. Some of them are just strictly bound to water environment. For instance, seals, phoci, and they sometimes go out on land where they just have a rest, but they hunt for food in water. The only mammal species that have learned how to fly is the group of bats. Mammal body construction. What makes mammals different from other animals is the presence of thick skin that is also covered in hair. A thick, consistent cover of hair is called fur. And basically, most of mammals, have fur. Humans have lost much of our cover of hair because we have invented clothes. So, as warm bodied animals, we don't need natural means to keep ourselves warm because we just thought that it would be a great idea to cover up our own bodies with something else. Most of mammals have two pairs of limbs and a tail. And once again, we are kind of different because we don't have the tail itself, but there is a remaining of a tail, which is called the occipital bone, kość ogonowa, which is the reduced tail. Tail is used for various purposes. And limbs are usually protected by claws, pazury, nails, paznokcie, or hooves, kopyta. So on this cute little cat, we will go through all the adaptations of the mammal body. First trait. Claws make it easier to move. Also, claws, just like in the case of cats, can be used to defend themselves. Also, they are used by various animals to hunt, to kill their prey. And if it comes to cats, cats are capable of hiding them and taking them out whenever they need to. Hair helps to sustain fixed body temperature. This is what I mentioned before. We have invented clothes, so we lost most of our hair. But when you take a closer look at your body, you will see that basically every square centimeter of your body is covered with thin, tiny hair. Auricles, which are the outside parts of ears, act as a radar to help to catch the sounds from the surrounding areas and to focus the sounds that are coming further into the ear. Tail is used for balance, to support, but also to protect the organism. For instance, when you see horses or cows, they will use the tail, they will constantly move it to get rid of all the insects that are sitting on them. Dogs use their tails as a means of communication because, depending on the position of their tail, they will express certain emotions. Eyelashes and eyelids. Uh, Mammals have eyelids in order to moisturize their eyes and also to protect them. Eyelashes serve the same function. And well-developed skeletal muscles in limbs can be used for various means of transport, defense, and also hunting. And guys, what is really important is the skin, because skin is the biggest organ in humans, but also it's very versatile. First of all, it secretes, produces various substances. There are hundreds and thousands of glands, gruczoły, that produce tallow, sweat, and milk. Tallow is used to maintain hair and skin. Without tallow, our hair would break easily, and also the skin will be more prone to breaking. Thermoregulation. Sweat glands create sweat. Well, once the thin layer of water is covering our bodies and evaporating, it takes the thermal energy from our bodies and cools us down. This is extremely important when it's really hot outside. Food. Glands present in mammal's skin, called mammary glands, create milk, which is the very first meal of a newborn. Not only it's nutritious and it allows the newborn to grow quickly, but also it helps to build the immune system of the baby. Protection of limbs, as I said, hoofs, nails, and claws are produced by skin and they are used to protect the ends of the limbs, but are also used in various situations, as I mentioned, hunting, running, and so on. Protection and storage. Layer of fat right below the skin serves for protection and as a storage of energy. So it protects the whole body from fracturing, from basically mechanical injuries, but also this fat is a storage of energy for later. So if you eat too much, the energy from sugar will be stored in the form of fat, which will be available later when there is not enough food. It also helps to survive, for instance, winter. Bears, before they hibernate for winter, they will gain a lot of weight. They will build their fat tissue in order to have a source of energy for surviving the winter. Mammals' lungs is very complex and very important topic because mammals breathe with oxygen, just like amphibians, just like reptiles, just like fish, but we have lungs, which are the most complex out of the vertebrates group, because what is so important, we have alveoli, pęcherzyki płucne, which are tiny bubbles which allow for basically making the area of gas exchange even bigger in the same volume of space. So, as we mentioned before, amphibians have just two simple bags that serve as lungs. Then reptiles have a little bit more folded lungs in order to increase the surface of the gas exchange. Birds have two bags, two tubes that serve as lungs, which are also connected to the air sacs, while humans and other mammals, they have those very complicated lungs in the form of alveoli. It's all to create a better efficiency at the gas exchange. And right now it's time for us to talk about mammals' life cycle. This is important. Most mammals are viviparous, which means that they are born alive directly from the mother's body. There's only internal fertilization among mammals, which means the egg cell will be fertilized inside mother's body, which is so different from, for instance, fish, because as you remember, fish would lay their eggs and then male fish will basically spray them with sperm in order to fertilize them, but this is happening in water. And in this case, just like in the case of reptiles and also birds, it happens inside the body. The first stage of development happens inside female's body and it's called the pregnancy. We all know that human pregnancy lasts 9 months, and this is the period where the fetus develops inside mother's organism. But the time of pregnancy is what differs between species. Some of the species have it really short. For instance, mice, it takes 3 weeks for them for the whole period of pregnancy, and elephants up to 2 years. This is important, guys. Remember this, most mammal females develop a special organ that allowed for nutrient and gas exchange with the baby inside the womb, and it's called placenta. Hence the name placentals, but we will go to this in a second. And the problem with mammals is that the babies are born kind of undercooked. I mean, when, for instance, a new turtle is being born and hatches from the egg, it comes to this world already equipped with all the necessary skills. So it knows how to feed itself, it knows where to go, where to find food, how to hide itself. Basically, pretty pretty efficient and very skillful. If it comes to mammals, offspring, they they are usually blind. They can barely move. Let's say, for instance, small bats or small cats. This piglet is a little bit older actually, so it's more skilled already. But still, usually the animals get born pretty vulnerable to whatever is happening outside. They need to be fed, they need to be kept warm, they need to be looked after, and they need to be taught how to do everything. The first meal of a mammal is the milk. As I mentioned, it's produced by mammary glands present in a female's body skin. And this milk not only allows for the development of the newborn, but also transfers some antibodies to help to build the immune system. And guys, on the previous slide, I showed you the most of mammals that they create placenta. And this is the group of mammals called placentals, łożyskowce. They are born alive directly from the mother's organism. Mother's organism creates placenta, and you know that it's used for gas and nutrients exchange, and the baby develops in the womb. While it's after it's developed, it gets born, and basically most of their tissues and organs are already developed, for instance, as it happens in humans, because the human baby can see, can hear, but still can barely move. If it comes, for instance, to cats, then cats or dogs, then the newborn are blind, they can barely move, they have to be looked after, but still they are more or less ready ready to survive with a little bit help from the parents. Other case is with marsupials, torbacze. Marsupials also get born alive directly from mother's organism, but the pregnancy lasts really, really short. So what is born is the basically fetus. So it's not a fully developed organism. Once it's born, it gets transferred to a special organ on mother's belly, which is called the marsupium. It's both in Polish and English the same. Po polsku może być jeszcze nazwane torba, stąd nazwa torbacze. And guys, kangaroos, Tasmanian devils, and koalas, they all get born this way. But there is also a very strange group which are basically living fossils, and those are monotremes. They are ovivivipares. Ovipares, born from egg, vivipares, born alive, and they are OVVV, which means that they are both born alive and from eggs. So this is the only group of animals, of mammals that lay eggs. And mothers just lay eggs, and the offspring hatches from them, and then is fed with milk. What is even more bizarre if it comes to monotremes is the fact that most of basically mammals, placentals, and marsupials, they have nipples. Where is the highest concentration of mammary glands? So basically, the milk comes out of the nipples. The newborn will attach to those nipples and they will suck the milk out. If it comes to monotremes, the milk basically is produced by the whole surface of mother's belly. So the newborns hatched from the egg, they just lick mother's belly. And those are two species like this, Echnida, kolczatka, and platypus, dziobak. And they look bizarre. So, on the left we have platypus, and it looks like a beaver with an attached beak of a duck. And when the first European travelers went to Australia, because this is where they live, of course they have to live in Australia, they thought that it's a kind of hoax, seriously, because this looks just weird. Echnida looks a little bit more civilized, I say. It resembles things, it resembles animals that we know, but still, the fact that it just lays eggs and then the new hatched babies will just lick mother's belly, it's still a little bit weird. And here we come to koala, which is an example of marsupials. And basically, koalas are weird as well because they feed on eucalyptus leaves. And basically, there is no worse food than eucalyptus. Not only the nutrition value is so low that they can barely survive, it's also very difficult to digest it, and it's toxic. So, the newborn babies, which are carried on the back once they are bigger, carried on the back of mothers, their digestive systems aren't developed enough to feed on eucalyptus. So once they stop consuming mother's milk, they start to eat mother's poop, because mothers are pooping out the remains of the eucalyptus leaves, which basically contain lots of bacteria that help to digest the eucalyptus leaves, and it also gives the immunity for the eucalyptus poison. So when young koalas are young, they have to eat this. What's even stranger, they are herbivores, and herbivores have to have very strong teeth to grind the leaves. And if it comes to koalas, well, over time, their teeth will just get damaged more and more, up to the point that koalas don't have any efficient way to grind the leaves. What do koalas do when they run out of teeth? They just die out of hunger. This is like the most ridiculous strategy of survival ever. This is so not efficient, but this is just the way it is. Okay, guys, so let's go back to the topic, significance of koalas. And here's a list. Please take a look at it. First of all, they can help to spread plants in various ways, just like birds. First of all, carrying them on their fur because some of the seeds will have tiny hooks which they will use to attach to the fur of an animal. But also animals, they just eat the fruits and they digest the fruit itself, but the seed will remain intact. So they will defecate it with feces. And this is how it spreads. And the seed has perfect conditions because it has been brought somewhere else, so it helps to increase the spatial range of the plant species. And also, they land in the amount of poop. And poop is a great fertilizer, so the new plant has perfect conditions to grow. Especially bats, they pollinate flowers because some species of bats they feed on nectar. They are used by people as means of transport, and horses and donkeys, elephants, camels, basically anything. We just ride on them. They could, however, transfer infectious diseases such as rabies. Rabies is a awful disease. Then we keep them uh, in our villages, in our communities because they give us milk, they give us skin, and they give us meat that we can later eat. They give us their skin, which is used to manufacture lots of items, especially clothing, but also purses, wallets, shoes, whatever, and their hair, especially the sheep, because we can just trim this hair and make clothes for ourselves. They are the lab rats in laboratories. Rats, mice, monkeys, basically all the research on medicines, on cosmetics is taking place on animals to test whether it will be harmful or not. They limit the population of pests. For instance, cats, they have been kept in our households for ages because they help to limit the population of mice. And they might be dangerous for humans and bring damage to farmlands and infrastructure. In Africa, a common problem is that elephants will just rush through the farmlands and destroy all the crops. Also, they might be dangerous. For instance, rhinos and hippos are really aggressive. So, whenever you see one around, especially if you live in Africa, then you might be sure that you have to run away because they are extremely aggressive. Guys, this is it for today. Please go to the assignments section. There is something waiting for you.